Owens on Thursdays on RVN TV, 12:30 during your lunch break, where we talk to the power networkers of the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. And I'm super stoked to have Joel Payton on the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's been so long, man. Like, it's been a long time since you and I had a chance to even catch up. So right before we started trying to chat to each other, but then we had to start the show, so it ended up not working out. But I'm so glad you're here. So you are one of the power networkers because you are very engaged with every single person you talk to. You're one of those people where you can walk into a room and talk to anybody. And I love that about you. But
Thanks.
You're also, we're gonna go into what he does and why he's awesome and why he works at the Payton Agency. But you're also a DJ.
I am.
Talk about that for a second.
So yes, it's something that I've done kind of on the side for years. I got involved with working with a buddy of mine, and we just I enjoyed it, so I picked it up and said, hey, I could do this on my own.
Okay, so what do you play? Like, where do you play?
Mostly I used to do bars. Now I do mostly like weddings, parties, that kind of stuff, private events. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I like it because I can pick and choose my my audience, and also I can engage them a little bit better because it's it's nice to be just a part of their party. So
no,
nice.
That's great, and I think it's really good for networking too because you like it. Especially, I think I just posted a video recently about like how nobody gives a shit about what you do. And sorry guys, sorry team, didn't mean to, was I talking to the mic? I'm curious as far as how has that helped you networking wise?
Yeah, so I have met people that I say to them, this isn't my full-time job. Yeah. This is what I do elsewhere, and they're like, really? So it brings me to that that conversation. The other thing is that just having those conversations makes me connected to saying, I know those people, and I get a lot of referrals from repeat business. For the DJ jobs that say, and I say, this isn't what I do on a normal basis. This is what I,
So if you need help, I've got you covered.
Yeah, I can do this, I can do that, and this is what I do. So it's nice because it gives me that opportunity to just, kind of cross, reference myself.
I love it. Yeah. Okay, so that pin that you're wearing, what is that pin for?
Yeah, so the pin is the Marine Corps. I am a former Marine. I once a Marine, always a Marine, but I, spent 5.5 years in the Marine Corps. I was a nuclear, biological, and chemical defense specialist.
Okay, slow down.
Yeah. I know, it's a tongue twister, yeah.
This is mint coffee. Say that one more time slower and like I'm an idiot.
I was a nuclear, biological, and chemical defense specialist.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, so basically in layman's terms, I train Marines how to survive in contaminated environments.
Contaminated environment?
Yes, with a nuclear, biological, or chemical contaminated environment.
So things that will fry my brain if I walked into a space?
Something like that, like a GB, sarin gas, VX.
Okay, what are these things that you're saying?
Those are chemical agents that are used in warfare. VX is a liquid that basically has no odor, no taste, no color. It looks like water.
Oh my God.
And if it gets into your body, it can kill you within 15 minutes if you get a lethal enough of a dose.
And so where would that chemical be used?
They use it in war. They'll drop it from a plane, they'll spray it onto vegetation, and then troops will walk through it. So my job was to teach them how to survive in that environment. I actually was in a VX chamber, so I know what that's like. I understand. I've been in that environment, so I can be that expert for them. But yeah, it was basically just teaching them how to survive in that environment, and then during actual combat scenarios, we would make predictions based on how it was disseminated on where it was going and how to get our troops out of there. So it was very technical on that aspect.
That's fascinating. So how did you handle that pressure?
It was just, I don't know, you just kind of do it. It was actually very funny. On the very first day of my schooling, of learning how to do all of this, they basically said, when we make mistakes, people die. Yeah. We don't make mistakes. Yeah. Which was like, okay, yeah, no pressure. But you kind of realize that this is what it is, and this is the real deal. And there
was never anything else that wasn't keeping you focused on.
No, you just, it was a challenge for me personally to kind of go after this. Out of the entire Marine Corps, there was less than 0.1% held our job. So out of like 175,000 Marines, there was less than 600 of us that did the job.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so it was for me, it was an important, piece of the pie, but it's one of those things, and it kind of relates to what I do as a, as an insurance agent. But basically what I do is, I got into it because it was that when the proverbial, what hits the fan, nobody wants to talk about it until that happens. So nobody wants to deal with, chemical warfare or biological warfare or how to deal with it.
Death.
Absolutely.
Just death.
Absolutely. Yeah, nobody wants that. And that was the thing. So what happened was for me is, it made a very easy transition into what I actually do now because, again, nobody really wants to talk about it. So, but it's very necessary to have the information and to know what you're dealing with.
So do you think that from your experience, like you said, it kind of transitioned into, being very cognizant of like the validity of how much you need to be to stay safe, right? So so talk about more about the Payton Agency, but I didn't even put those two and two together because that's fascinating because you have more of an emotional connection as to why you're helping people in this particular industry.
Absolutely, and one of the things that I hate is when people tell me, it's not personal, it's just business. And for me, it is personal because my business is personal to me. And, I want to connect with people on that personal level. I want to connect with small business owners on that personal level. It's not just business, it's part of our business. And, getting out of the Marine Corps doesn't really, my job didn't translate to too much at that time into a civilian position. So, kind of navigating through some spots, I wound up with, insurance. So, and what I look at it as more of a risk advisor, and a risk assessment advisor. And what I do as a Payton Agency is one of our, my slogan is basically, is protecting what matters most. And what matters most to everybody is different.
Yeah, okay.
But for me, it's very similar and it really is one thing. And if you think about what matters most to each individual, it's your income.
So give me an example of a client that you work with that you've been able to kind of help.
Yeah, so a lot of times what I do is, and I kind of correlate a lot of my examples down to one guy. He runs a Christmas tree farm.
How you doing this right?
Yeah, I love this guy, and he runs a Christmas tree farm, and he came to me, he was looking at a couple different things, trying to get a couple different quotes, and when I saw what he had farm liability, that's great, wonderful, but what my job is to do is not just to say, okay, here's what you have, let me give you the same thing and see if I can save you some money. My job is really to understand what your job is, what your business is like, and what you're trying to do. So I said, look, I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions, we're gonna kind of break it down for you, and then I'll come back and show you what I can do. And when I started to really kind of understand what he was doing, I was asking him, what are your daily operations? How does your business look like? What are you actually into? And he gave me things like, well, we cut your own trees. And okay, so now you got to think about a 10-year-old running through the forest, of Christmas trees with a saw in his hand. And if he trips, there's a problem. Certain class codes, and that's how we classify things in insurance, class codes. Certain class codes don't cover certain things. So you have to have the right coverage for that policy to play out in those scenarios. Another one was, giving out some hot chocolate or free coffee. You're trying to drum up patronage and have people kind of hang around and, sit around maybe a small campfire or something like that and have some music playing and making an experience, a family environment, but then you're giving out hot chocolate. And we all know, hot liquids and laps and, burns, alcohol. Well, not alcohol so much, well, but yeah, hot chocolate,
but I'm having that kind of hot chocolate.
Right, the little extra.
This is straight vodka.
Absolutely. So,
good.
no,
Yeah,
so basically,
this is fake, guys. This is real.
So basically, doing that, and then the other things was, renting out a portion of his property to, to a local, Amish family to, run their orchard, and because there was an orchard on part of his property. He didn't have that coverage in his original policy. There was a couple of class codes probably about 4 or 5 class codes that were not included into his policy.
This is stuff that you don't think about, though. Like, I wouldn't even imagine how if I were to get, like, say I were working for, a company that has a brick and mortar store, right? And they're kind of like, it's freezing outside and trying to hand out coffee and hot chocolate. Like, I'm liable if someone dies, right?
Yeah, well, it's a simple thing of, they get a burn or if they, something like that, yeah.
Here's a dumb question. And again, I'm curious about this. If I get food poisoning from a restaurant or like a takeout place, how much can I get?
Well, okay, so I'm not a lawyer.
Projectile vomit all over my bathroom. Like, what happens? I'm always curious because I've seen people like, yeah, I got food poisoning. From who? From who did you get food poisoning? And like, how does that work? Do they cover themselves in that?
Well, yeah, and that's why you have insurance is for bodily injury liability. So, and that would play into that. And obviously the lawyers, you know, in a courtroom kind of figure out who's responsible for what and how much. But my goal is to make sure that if you are tied into that lawsuit, that you would have protection.
Got it.
And that's really what it's all about, is protecting what matters most. And, you know, in that scenario, it could be your business. It's your source of income. And that's really what I'm protecting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you typically work with small to medium-sized companies?
Yeah, small to medium-sized businesses. You know, anybody who's got, you know, I work with the mom and pop or the solopreneur, and you know, all the way up to, you know, medium-sized businesses if they have.
But your niche is 5 to 10 people, right?
Yeah, you know, it really kind of fits in that range.
Yeah.
I do very well in that range. So I kind of focus on 3 areas in my business, and I always say it's business, life, and Medicare. So, you know, business kind of goes, you know, obviously it's commercial insurance, but when people think commercial insurance, they're thinking, you know, like a commercial building, and I kind of look at it as more of a horizontal business versus vertical businesses. So I'm not looking for, you know, necessarily the corporate end of things, but the mom and pop or the guys in the strip mall, you know, the supply houses that might have like a pet supply or, you know, hardware supply or something like that.
Right.
But I can also do, you know, vets and doctors' offices, you know, and those types of liabilities. I do a lot of agriculture stuff. So horse equine exposures. I do a lot of horse trainers, horse farms. We do, you know, Christmas tree farms. Obviously, I do. I have like vegetable farms, corn mazes, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, anybody, I say if it's green and it grows and it's legal, then that's fine.
Wait, cannabis, have you seen the cannabis push?
Yeah, you know, it's going that way. It's going to be very difficult, but it's out there.
Can you get into that?
There's always a possibility. You know, it's one of those things where you have to know, you have to understand the business to really get into it, and that's something that I would probably need to do a little bit more research on.
There's an event coming up. There's a cannabis convention, I think, or a cannabis event coming up that I think I sent it over to a few of my lawyer friends who are interested in getting in that area, because it can be a little, it's up and coming, it's new, like the CBD oil, the whole thing, and like I don't smoke, and I find it so interesting because it's becoming legal in so many states that there is a need for more of that kind of help and kind of therapy.
And you know what? It's different for the different liabilities. Like, you know, the retail end of it is a different liability than the growing, you know, of the products and that kind of stuff. And then the distribution of the product is a different liability. So that's where we get into those class codes.
Yeah.
Certain insurance companies will run certain ways, some won't. So it really depends on what the carrier is willing to write and willing to take on that risk. And my job is basically to understand the risk so I can bring that to the insurance company and say, this is what it looks like, this is the process of their business, and then we work together to give them, you know, the best policy.
That's fascinating. Yeah. When we return, we're going to come back with Joel and talk about his practical tips and tactical takeaways in networking, because if you're working in a heavily saturated market, I'm really curious to see how you're getting people with horse farms on your roster. So we'll come back, we'll learn more about Joel and his networking tips. Stay tuned.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
To connect us, we thought we had like 30 seconds left. Connect us Success with Ashley Owens. I have Joel Payton from the Payton Agency here today, and he's with me talking about insurance. But what I really love about you is your military background, how you take it very, very personal when you save people's lives, essentially, and figuratively. You know, when it comes down to giving them the right kind of insurance for their business needs as well as for their own needs. So here's a question for you.
Sure.
So I asked this to a lot of the people that I know are in heavily saturated markets. How do you network? Because people hate the word insurance, they hate the word real estate, they hate the word financial planner. Like, how do you separate yourself? And I swear to God, if you say, it's my customer service, I will kick you off the show. Just give me something tactical. Like, what stands out for me is that your military background and how you've been able to incorporate that, because I haven't met anybody else that does that. I had a gentleman on who also sells insurance that it's family-owned business, but I like him a lot. And so, and I like you a lot, and I'm curious to see what avenues I can make referrals to, but what makes you different?
Yeah, you know, so to me. No.
Out.
Right?
Get
No,
out.
I know. What really makes me different is I kind of work a little different than most insurance agents. So a lot of insurance agents have a home office that they kind of sit in and wait for the insurance. They do a lot of just the marketing and the billboards and that kind of stuff. I go out to my clients. I go and I try to find them. I also work with a lot of referrals and social media and that types of stuff. But for me, finding my niche markets is really just kind of diving into certain aspects. We call them vertical markets, like the horse equine exposure. Just getting into a couple of Facebook groups, and really finding those equine groups and then getting my name passed around with, hey, I was able to help them out. I can help you out.
So are testimonials beneficial for you and referrals beneficial for you? Like, do you typically go off of, because you're on the small to medium size, like I feel like with you, there's so much more of a personal touch that you have to it. Like everybody says that, but there's a real personal touch because there are people that have brand new businesses that are very scared, that might be trying to navigate themselves through this whole, mystifying entrepreneurial, journey. And I feel like you're the perfect person with a great attitude to be able to go in and help them navigate through that.
Right.
And a lot of bigger companies will have a rep that kind of does that, but like, you are going to their offices, you're going to their homes, like you're bringing things to them and you're making sure that they are as beneficial as possible, like what you're doing. Right. And I find that to be your identifier. But what do you think, when you network, what do you think people enjoy most about what you do?
I try to make it, like I said, I try to make it personal. I really try to figure out what is making them tick. Why do they have, what's their need?
Why they start their business?
Why do they start their business? Yeah. Why do they have it? What's their long-range plans are? What's their business continuation plan is? What are they trying to do outside of their business after their business is done? And see what their end game is and see if I can help them there. Yeah. I find a lot of businesses that are just starting out and I help them grow. I find a lot of established businesses and help them stay. And then people are getting out of their business and they sell it and they're trying to figure out what to do after the fact, or they're retiring and what do I do? Because I do all lines of business, insurance, and financial services. It's a wide gamut, but making sure that their needs are taken care of. I don't have the cookie cutter, here's your policy, here's what I can offer you.
And then piecing out.
Right, and then just give them a number and walk away. It's really trying to understand their business and see if I can help them, and really kind of help push their business. Because as their business grows, I'm hoping that mine will too. Because again, it's just that referral business and word of mouth and saying, hey, this guy helped me out, he might be able to help you out as well.
So what organizations are you a part of that seem to help you with your networking?
Yeah, so I'm part of a group called Power Match, and Power Match has been wonderful. It's one of those things where, I'm not a big, I'm kind of charismatic and I don't mind getting out there.
Super shy.
Yeah, I am very shy, but, sitting out with 100 people in a room trying to figure out who do I want to talk to doesn't really make sense. I mean, there's always those tips of just, hey, go after the person that, organized it, or, and then get some introductions. But I like the smaller group settings where you're only meeting with 2 or 3 people at a time. You're understanding their business. I'm able to, again, really kind of assess what they're trying to do in their business to see if I can help them out.
Right.
And then, again, hopefully they'll be able to help me out.
Well, what's good about what you do too is that like anybody that has a business, it could be a potential client, like a small to medium-sized business. And so there's certain industries that you enjoy and that you work really well with, but I mean, I think we had a few other people on the show that I was like, don't tell me that you can work with anybody. Like, it's not gonna, I can't stand that. Yeah. But for you, it's anybody that has a business, because insurance is so, it's canvassed over what everybody needs, essentially.
It is. And it's one of those things where, look,
you don't
business,
think about.
No, you don't. And it's not intangible, or it's intangible. It's not one of those things that you could just say, hey, here's my coffee mug, take it, buy it. It's an intangible object that you're going to have. It's a piece of paper in a desk somewhere that, but when you need it, you're going to call me and say, hey, I had this happen. Yeah. And I have policies that, you're only paying a couple of dollars on the in relation to how much insurance they're getting. And I've had losses where they might be paying $1,000 a year, but they had a $90,000 loss because of water damage. And, when that happens to a small business, it can be crucial and crippling, and it can just close up shop. But when you have that insurance policy to kind of help them through that process and have it correct, that their bills get paid, they don't lose their source of income, and they can move right on and continue operations and rebuild.
Are you working with companies like LLCs essentially?
Yeah, so I do a lot of LLCs, and some S corp, S corps, and a couple of incorporated businesses, but usually the small, small to medium. And I say small, I'm looking at 5 to 10 employees. employees, or even 1 to 5, it's okay, because those are the guys that are just starting out. They're trying to figure out the navigating the business world and getting their business off the ground. And I'm okay working with those because I know I'm helping them grow, and I don't mind growing with them. And plus, I can be a resource for them as well.
So what do you think those people need the most as far as coverage?
Yeah, so a
like
lot of times
when you
starting out,
example.
they don't realize what actually they need to understand. They have to have a good understanding of what their business is, so that I can insure it correctly. With business liability or a general liability policy, if they need a workers' comp policy, if they have a couple of employees, they're going to need a workers' compensation policy to cover any type of illness or injury at work. Disability products are wonderful for small business owners because a lot of times they'll opt out, because they can in the state of Pennsylvania opt out of the workers' comp, so they're not included in that policy, but then they have no coverage if they get hurt at work. So, a disability product will actually help them throughout, it's 24/7 coverage, so it'll help them no matter what. And then the other thing is that, life insurance, you don't realize, and it kills me that I see business owners that don't have life insurance because you insure your phone, you're insuring your business, you're insuring your house, you're insuring your car, but you're not insuring your life. Right. Your life is the blood of your business, and if you're not around to run that, what's going to happen? Right. And we need to make sure that that's covered correctly.
So when you are navigating through the networking scene, right, which can be challenging, and there's a lot that's going on, what do you think people in your industry do the most that's awful?
They go around handing out business cards. Yeah. And I see a lot of times, and that's one of the reasons why those bigger units, when you're going to the networking event, it's got 150 people, and you see the guy just walking around saying, "Hi, here's my card. Hi, here's my card." Yeah, and you're just like, "No thanks." I can't. And for me, you have to go and you have to have a purpose. Yeah. You really have to have a purpose. I mean, if I could say one, one of those tactical tips, as you say. Tactical tips.
So give me your top 3 tactical tips.
I would say my top 3 is 1, be prepared. And with that, meaning know who is operating the event. Right. Know who is, someone that you want to go see. If you're doing like a meetup.com or you're following it on a Facebook event and you're seeing who's going to attend, you'll do a little bit of research on who they are and then seek them out. You have a face to the name, you write it down, you know who you're going to go to. Even if you just jot on the back of your own business card so you see it, put a little note card, put a couple of note cards in your pocket so you can just quickly glance at them and pull them out and say, okay, these are the people I need to see. Right. And then if you go in there go straight to the person who's running the thing, introduce yourself to them. What that's going to do is they're going to naturally introduce you to someone else.
Perfect. So it's it's having a purpose and going above and beyond, reaching out to the coordinator.
Yeah.
And what's your 3rd?
You just be yourself. I see a lot of people trying to be something they're not. And when everything settles and the dust settles and you actually meet them for a second time or a third time, they're a completely different person.
Isn't it weird? People are strange.
It is. It's very strange. Just be yourself. This is who I am. You get what you get. And if you don't like it, I'm not a perfect match for everybody. I'm not a perfect fit for everybody. And you find what works for you and who you connect with, and then you just run with it.
So besides Power Match, what other organizations do you find to be pretty robust, especially for your heavily saturated industries?
Yeah, so I do a lot of, like I said, a lot of Facebook groups. I have, one in Chester County. I do another, the Chester County Riders. You see that at Facebook events. I also am a part of some referral networks within other insurance agencies.
Tell people what a referral network is.
Yeah, so for us, it's just basically a network of partners that don't do your business but can bring you customers.
So strategic partners.
Strategic partners or referral partners. Those are people that may be in the industry, may not be in your industry, but they are connected to the people that you want to connect with.
So who in that group is a good partner for you?
Yeah, so a great partner is a financial advisor who's not doing insurance products because obviously they go hand in hand, and I like to keep business where it's at, so I don't like to compete for certain business, but I like to offer my services on what I can do. So financial advisors who do not have the business liability, workers' comp access, and that kind of stuff. And then I do a lot of, CPAs are okay. They're pretty decent because they see a lot of small business owners, and you have to have an accountant, you have to have a lawyer. Guess what? You have to have an insurance agent. So working together with those kinds of groups are great. And for me, it's just it's trying to find people that work outside of the normal, just not the CPAs and the financial advisors and stuff like that. But
Words are hard.
I know it is. It's difficult. I need another coffee. But you know, that's but that's the thing. You know, just trying to find those people and just connecting with them. Yeah.
That's awesome, Joel. We're done.
Wow, look at that.
Isn't that crazy? How fast that went.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
I can't believe it.
I'm so happy you're here.
That's amazing.
I know. I didn't have to do anything. I just sat here and just asked you questions.
Oh,
I didn't have to do
that's
anything.
all I do is talk.
It's great. It's amazing. So do me a favor.
I can listen. I can
I know,
listen.
you do listen, and that's why you're here, is because I knew what you had to say is going to be valuable and very, very tactful and helpful. Do me a favor, look at this camera right here and tell people where they can find you.
You can find me online at thepaytonagency.com or paytonagency.com. You can also, you know, check me out on Facebook. I'm pretty much everywhere. Just Google Payton Agency or Joel Payton. I'll shoot you my number, 610-757-1029, and just reach me anytime, any place. I'm always there for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What is your tagline again?
Protecting what matters most.
Beautiful. Well, if you need something that needs protecting, reach out to Joel Payton. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Connected Success with Ashley Owens and RV and TV. Blah, blah, blah. Some my coffee. And we'll see you next week with your power networkers in the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. So stay tuned. See you next week.